Okay, this video is from June 16th. It's 2 days after the last video that I posted of Romeo, June 14th video. And the June 14th video, I was just basically kind of letting him have his head more. The reins were a little bit looser. And first day, that one was first day back in the snaffle, and then not wearing spurs. And so these are just my notes for me to, I guess, what would you call, just for our journey, just for me to, like a diary. It's a journal. These are my notes for my journal, my horse journal, my Romeo journal. And so I had been using a shank bit on him for probably, I don't know, a couple weeks or so. And there were a couple reasons. One was because he's 5 years old, and this is the last year that he'll be able to show in a snaffle, two-handed. And I doubt I'm going to show him this year. So I just wanted to get a head start on teaching him how to neck rein and, you know, riding with one hand, because I'd like to show him next year. So just wanted to kind of get a head start on that and start preparing for next year. And another reason is because what I'm learning, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I usually try to follow my intuition and what feels right for that day. And I'm a fitness trainer, and that's what I do and have done with that for 27 years. And, you know, have found that kind of when you know what your goal is, if you follow your intuition, it'll lead you to your goal. And so I try to apply a lot of what I know with my fitness to my horses, and whether that's right or wrong, that's what works best for me so far, it seems like. But anyway, so another reason is, and I watch other people's videos and DVDs and stuff like that, and listen to my mom and my friend John, and I like to talk to people about stuff, and then I try things, or things, you know, come to mind, and I try them. And I think it's just a big, long journey of learning and growing. My parents were horse trainers, and I was brought up around horses when I was younger, all the way until I was a teenager, like about 17, I think. Went from Western pleasure horses into racing thoroughbreds. Was almost going to be a jockey, but then I got into my bodybuilding and did that for quite a few years. And got back into horses in 2005 and got Romeo in 2007. And anyway, I just back to the shank bit. He tends to, like, if you can gather up on the reins, and he tends to kind of, he doesn't pull, but he'll go to the amount of rein that you give him and just keep, you know, he gives to it. He stays light. But if you lower the reins, he'll lower his head as much as you give him. He doesn't pull. He's very respectful of the bit. But I thought maybe using the shank, as I heard one lady on YouTube, her name is Jamie, and I like her. She has a great YouTube channel. I heard her talking about, I think she was riding 2 different 2-year-olds, and she had one in a Tom Thumb. Might have been 3-year-olds, I'm not sure. But she had one in a Tom Thumb and one in a snaffle. And her reason for having it in the Tom Thumb was so he would learn how to carry himself better. And that's kind of what I feel like with Romeo, that might help him to, you know, not put his head as low as whatever rein you give him. So he would kind of stay back more, which that kind of made sense to me just from what he was doing. So I did that for a couple weeks, and I tried a mylar bit first, and that worked well for a while, and I think it did kind of help him to kind of you know, start to carry his head a little bit better on a looser rein instead of wanting to always drop it so low. And I think it helped him with his jog and a little more collection. And then I tried a DM lifter bit, which that one's pretty good too. And then I got about a 5.5 inch shank snaffle, and he kind of started to chew on the side of that. And then I used a correction bit, short shank correction bit, one time, and he did well with that. And after that one, I went back to snaffle and no spurs. And it's just interesting, I think, to see what does what. And I think you get different results with different bits, and some days it feels good to use a different bit, and some days it feels good to go back to the snaffle. So that's what I'm learning with him. And you know, it's like, I think when you're getting ready to ride, it's like you kind of get a sense of like what you need to use for that day, or maybe what you want to use. And you know, the correction bit, I think, made his jog look the best, because he really, I just gave him his head. He didn't offer to, you know, drop his head too low. He just kind of held it. His lope, I don't know if his lope was quite as good, but that was the first time we used it, and you know, he just wasn't used to it. But it almost felt like he was maybe sucking back a little bit too much, is how I would describe how it felt. So that's why June 14th I went back to the snaffle, because I didn't want him to get afraid of it. And he tends to lope, I think, really good with the snaffle, and I just wanted to give him his head, you know, give him the reins again. And then the next day I did ride June 15th, and I think I had the reins a little bit tighter on June 15th, and then same here. I mean, they're not real super tight. I'm not really holding them. It's like I just have them a little tighter than I did on June 14th. But the first part of the lopes here, I think he you know, he right there he raised his head, and I think we were just kind of getting the feel. And for me, it's just about learning how to keep him in a nice lope and be consistent. I think he's gotten a lot more consistent with his lope from April, when we started back in April. And see, he does things like that where he'll do that and it kind of pulls me forward a lope. So this day we ended up loping a lot, and I was just kind of trying to see what does what. But I've learned with him how to really sit down on him, especially not having the spurs. And I kind of like not having the spurs, because the when you're short and you have short legs, you have to really watch out that you don't poke them. So you have to kind of know where your feet are and how you have your legs. And one thing I noticed about myself and how I ride, and I never noticed this until, I don't know, probably maybe a couple weeks ago or so, or a week ago, where it like finally, like, because I think I was doing it some and not doing it some, but I kind of saw how I have to really sit down on him. And know how I'm using my legs. Being a bodybuilder, I think, and posing, like when you pose, you flex your whole leg. And I think that's kind of what I was doing when I would squeeze in, and especially having spurs. I wore spurs with my appy and wore spurs with Romeo for a while because he was lazier in the beginning and he needed that extra little poke to get him going, moving into his trot and his lope some. But with my appy, I think what I would do, you know, because people talk about squeezing your horse or, you know, squeezing him to lift. And I think what I would do would use my whole leg to squeeze. And I'd use my inner thigh because I always felt like my inner thigh would get pumped or my butt would get pumped. And what was happening was then it was making me not sit down on the horse like I should. Because in the beginning they would start out good, but then because my legs were pumped and I wasn't really sitting on them, they wouldn't go the same. And I never really realized what happened until, or what was happening until just not too long ago. And actually the day before this video, I kind of experienced that too, where it was a second day not wearing spurs, where he was wanting to get lazier and I was trying to, you know, use my legs a little bit more and squeeze in, but then I was trying to keep him going too, and I think I started squeezing with my inner thigh too, and my inner thighs got pumped and my butt got pumped, and it kind of made him not go the same and feel a little uneasy or unsure, like, what are you doing? So I'm really learning that I need to stay sitting down on him, and when I squeeze, the squeeze has to come from my calves. And when I lope with him, what I noticed too, it's like the squeeze kind of comes, I kind of turn my knees out a little bit and open up my hips and kind of squeeze in with my calves. He likes it that way instead of, and it helps when I don't have spurs, because when you have short legs, those spurs are right there on his sides. You know, my legs don't hang down below his belly. They hang right on his sides. So I'm kind of really liking not wearing spurs, because then I can turn my knees out and don't have to worry about poking him with my spurs. The only thing is he does tend to get a little lazier, so we're learning how to work through that. And so this day we really worked on the lope a lot, and I was like finding out that I needed to just sit down after the day before, the June 15th, which I do have that video, but I don't know if I'm going to put it up because it wasn't a whole lot different from, you know, the June 14th, 15th, and 16th. I think that it was kind of a medium in between the two. So I just wanted to get this one up because this one was better, and kind of shows the difference, I think, between the 14th and this one, because the 14th again was on a little bit looser rein. This one I had the reins gathered up just a little bit tighter, so I could get a hold of him if I needed to, and like when I squeezed him I could pick up on his face a little bit. And so these are just my notes of what I'm learning and going through with him. And I think that he works. I'm watching the video. I'm watching the video as I'm saying this. I was just watching his lope. But one of the other things he does is, like, when I cue him, he'll lift his head up, and that's a leg thing. Like, he doesn't mind the squeeze in when you're loping. He doesn't mind your leg pressure that way. But when you go to, like, use one leg like that to cue him or to make a move off of your body, like move his butt around or whatever, he kind of tends to raise his head. And I think that's just a not accepting it yet. So that's probably like one of the things we need to start working on. And another thing, when he stops, like if you're loping or jogging and you tell him to walk, he's not as bad. But if you tell him to whoa, he kind of tends to stop and put his head up in the air. And so I haven't started to work on that yet. I'm not exactly sure what to do that. I think I have an idea of what I'm going to do with when I cue him to lope. How I'm going to fix that. I'm going to maybe try it. The last couple days have been really windy, so I haven't been able to ride, and it's really windy today. It's supposed to be windy tomorrow, I think, and maybe even Monday. So he's going to have a few days off, so we'll have to, it's just kind of, I think my goals right now are to just keep working at his cadence, I guess, and consistency at his gaits, at his jog and his lope. And then I'll worry about transitions later, I think, because I'm still just like learning a lot with just how to keep him consistent, especially in his lope and his jog. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to see how to do that. And with him, it's like I stay right there with him and just feel him, and he feels like he's just waiting for me to tell him what to do. And his lope, it's like, I don't think I've ever felt a lope like his. I mean, it's just like so smooth and easy to ride. And his jog, like a while back, his jog was he was trying to go slower, but it was kind of wallery. He'd kind of be jogging in the front, but walking in the back. He'd be cheating. He'd be a cheater. But I'm learning that that's from just needing to collect him up a little bit more and pushing him into it and getting a 2-beat jog, which he's gotten pretty good. He's gotten pretty good at that. I think it can still be a little bit crisper, but we're getting there. I'm not in a real big hurry with it. It's like I'm learning more and more, and I think it's a fun process.